With Trump's trade war with China, you are going to see that trickle down effect, and it's not a good one. It's going to be one that will badly impact the poor in the country. And a lot of working class people will be impacted because, especially if you work for businesses, especially retail, that get a lot of goods and imports from China. So some of the big giants like Walmart, they can prepare themselves and look for alternatives, but that's not that's not really the case for all businesses, especially a smaller businesses. The smaller businesses are pretty limited because they don't have the money that giant corporation retailers have. But the AP put out this article, Poor Americans Likely to Be Hit Hardest by U.S. Tariffs. And that is true. I mean, last year you saw how bad it impacted the farmers. China literally stopped buying soybeans and corn from the U.S. And that was the biggest moneymaker many of these farmers were getting. So even if they had not such a good season, they could count on getting that income from China. That is now gone. That is completely gone now for US farmers. China has gone elsewhere in the world buying their soybeans and corn now. The biggest victims of Trump's tariffs won't necessarily be Mexicans or Chinese or young urbanites who will have to pay more for avocado toast. The people likely to pay the steepest price for Trump's attempts to bend Mexico and China to his will be poor Americans. I mean, unfortunately, they are the ones that are suffering all the time, who already live close to the financial edge and could have to pay more for everyday purchases. And that's really going to impact all of us. You don't have to be poor to be out here paying more higher prices for things. For many low-income households, tariffs are a tax on their consumption. And by raising the cost of their consumption, they will likely to have to cut back. Yes, they sure will. They sure will. The president last week announced plans to impose a 5% tax on Mexican imports unless the country halts all unauthorized border crossings into the United States. And of course, I was reading articles where Congress disagrees with this and, the usual BS. The tariffs would ratchet up to 25% in the coming months if Mexico fails to stop the flow of immigrants and asylum seekers. Being that those folks come in from other countries, I don't know if they can stop all of them. If that's the case, US stop all of them on your side. How come you're not stopping all of them? The threat of higher tariffs follow a decision in May to hike tariffs to 25% from 10% on Chinese imports, a move designed to increase pressure on China to agree to more favorable trading terms with the United States. Well, China has been throwing billions of dollars worth of tariffs back on the United States. One thing about China that they have in their advantage, the US let all their jobs go over there. And because of that, China has been able to grow their economy for the last few decades. So they got something to fight with, unlike Mexico. But rather than force concessions with China and Mexico, the tariffs could boomerang on US consumers and companies. It did last year. It just didn't make big news. But I was reading about how actually the tariffs that Trump put on China increased the deficit. So it did not help the US economy at all. The taxes could raise the price of fruits and vegetables and disrupt the supply chain for auto parts in ways that could hurt vehicle sales. That would be hard on people like Walter Rogers, a 65-year-old retiree living in Phoenix on Social Security check. He receives about $700 a month. Wow, what a joke. We just got a cost of living raise. Now we're going to raise prices, Rogers says as he walks into Walmart. Hardly anybody can afford this stuff. Executives at Walmart and dollar store chains, which imports much of its merchandise and serve many low-income customers, have warned that tariffs could lead to higher prices. In 2017, a research paper co-authored by Shambaugh found that tariffs could eat up a greater proportion of the incomes of the bottom 10% of households. The burden would be much lighter for those higher up on the financial ladder. The findings, which are backed by most economists, stand in sharp contrast to Trump's misleading claim that foreign countries are paying the tariffs. No, they won't. China is fighting you back, okay? And you can best believe Mexico will fight back too. In reality, the taxes are passed along to consumers and companies in the form of higher prices and reduced economic activity that can stifle overall growth. And ladies and gentlemen, that's why they are saying by the time we get to 2020, there will be a recession. And this trade war Trump got going on will push it even faster. You know, it's going to accelerate the whole thing. First, poorer Americans tend to spend all of their income, while wealthier Americans have enough income left over to save and invest. That leaves the poor more exposed to higher prices from import taxes. Second, the wealthy are more likely to splurge on services such as farm-to-table restaurant meals or gym memberships that are not subject to tariffs at all. But poor Americans spend a higher percentage of their income on basics, such as clothing and groceries, that are more likely to be imported and subject to tariffs. You know, that's true. You know, it was a few years ago I had learned that all apple juice, it doesn't matter what brand it is in that store, comes from China. All of it. There is no apple juice made in the US. And I was actually talking to a grocery store manager that I went to high school with. And he and I got into a conversation when I was in there shopping, and he came over to talk to me. And we were talking about, you know, the different products and how much they get from China. And that's when he told me, he said, no, all apple juice on the shelf comes from China. None of it is made here. None of it. Now, you'll have distributors in America of the apple juice, but it's not made here. Really interesting. It's no telling how many products on the shelf are not even made in the US anymore because they've given so many of the jobs to China. So, yeah, so I'm not surprised that poor people will pay the price. And you can best believe this is coming soon. We're not far off from seeing these higher prices. Marlene Grimes has noticed higher prices for dairy goods and vitamins at the drugstore near her Phoenix apartment. If prices go even higher, she said, she would have to visit the local food pantry more often. Well, I tell you what, in my neighborhood, that has gone through the roof. I was even outside working on my lawn, and these two women stopped in their car, and I was shocked. because these were not women that lived in my town. And they were asking me if there were any churches that had a food pantry. These were two white women. And I looked up. Now, I only know of one in my town. I know the other churches, they really don't do anything for the community. Now, this one, I believe, if memory serves me correct, because I know a few people that go there. I don't go to the food pantry. I'm fortunate enough where I don't have to resort to that. But there are a few people around me that take advantage. And I think the church only does it like once a month. And they're the only ones I know in my immediate area that does it. And from what they were telling me, you could get things like chicken. They give you the chicken legs, the quarter legs, and they give you packs of hot dogs, and you can get all kinds of canned vegetables. They give people a ton of canned vegetables. From what I was understanding, some of the people were saying they give them enough canned vegetables to literally last them a month. They will really rack up on that. And I know a lot of it is donations from local supermarkets that the church gets. And then they take it and distribute it to the people that need it. And I know at one point in time, people were telling me you could even get fresh fruits and vegetables from the church. Now, I don't know if that's continued or not. I would have to talk to some of the people that go there that would be able to tell me better. But yeah, you would be shocked at the kind of people that are looking for food pantries. It is shocking, but this is the times that we are in. A lot of people are struggling, and this country is not willing to admit how bad people are struggling out here. All they want to do is get on the news and tell you how, people are working, the economy is good. Well, the economy is never good for a person that's struggling. It doesn't matter if you say the economy is good. It don't matter to them. So, all right, so let's get back to this Marlene Grimes. I'm on a fixed income, said Grimes, a 74-year-old retiree. If it goes up on what you buy, you just don't buy it. During a period of widening income inequality, Trump's plan to levy tariffs will complicate the legacy of this 2017 income tax overhaul, his signature policy achievement. Administration officials repeatedly pledge that the middle class and poor would benefit from lower tax rates, but that's not happening from these tariffs, y'all. That's really unrealistic. But the chief beneficiaries of the overhaul so far have been the wealthy and the corporations. Any tax savings realized by the poor could be eaten up by higher prices from tariffs, according to an analysis being released this week by the Tax Foundation, a right of center think tank in Washington. Assuming a 25% tax on both Chinese and Mexican imports, the bottom fifth of households would probably be worse off under Trump than they were during Obama's presidency, said Kyle Pomerleau. That's a shame. Chief economist at the Tax Foundation, wealthier households would likely be insulated from the tariffs and could keep most of their savings from lower income tax. You're looking at an administration that may have raised taxes on the bottom 20% and tax cuts for the top 1%, Pomerleau said. Tariffs on Mexico would be especially tough on Arizona, which imports $9 billion worth of goods from its southern neighbor last year, nearly 3 times as much from its nearest close trading partner, China. Well, they're not alone. There's a lot of states in this country that heavily depends on those imports. I would say it's probably the majority of the states. The historically Republican state voted narrowly for Trump in 2016, but last year, midterm election, Democrats picked up offices they had not won in decades. Arizona is expected to be a battleground in the 2020 presidential election and will have a crucial Senate contest. Republican Governor Doug Ducey generally opposes tariffs, but has avoided criticizing Trump's threat, saying national security is more important than commerce. Our economy is doing terrific. Our economy is going to continue to do terrific, Ducey told reporters Monday. He's saying this, and at the same time, he doesn't agree with all the tariffs. I mean, so how genuine is that? All right, so ladies and gentlemen, all I have to, to say to many of you, I grow a garden. If you have a neighbor or somebody that's growing a garden, perhaps they can help you out. I did that for a few of my neighbors. I had at one point an elderly man that lived around me, and he walked with a cane, and he would just walk over to me and said, can you give me some tomatoes? I'll buy them from you. And I was like, you don't have to buy them. He would not let me turn down his money. He was like, nope. If I was in the supermarket, I would be paying. So I want to pay you. And he would just give me a few dollars, and I would give him a bunch of tomatoes because, one plant, what a lot of people don't realize, one tomato plant can give you up to 30 pounds of tomatoes. You really, even if you have a small family, you could get by on one plant. You really could. And I would give him a few peppers and a few other things I had in my garden. I would always have a lot of string beans, so I would give him string beans. And he would just give me a few dollars, and that was it. He has since passed away. He was a nice old man, and I would check on him periodically because he wasn't in the best of health. But he did eventually pass on a few years back. Republican governors, Democrat governors, just watch what's going on in your state. Because if prices are going up, you'll find out locally. You really will. You'll find out locally a lot quicker than you will watching national news. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen, about this article. This is really interesting. And this, ladies and gentlemen, this is a sign of the times. It really is. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.